So over the last couple of weeks, I've gained a new influx of followers, and followers who are getting started with writing, and I've noticed that in the questions that I've been getting and the messages I've been getting, and I wanted to sit down today to tackle a particular subject, and one that I feel is, it's a classic for this channel. It's something I've touched on before, but I take every chance gladly to underline my feelings about something. And the subject today is that the story is always right. There's a sentiment, especially, and I know, this is a sentiment, at least when I was in high school, and I was learning about literature, and writing. There was a sentiment coming from my teachers and the textbooks we were reading, that the people who created these stories, these writers, knew everything about the story. They knew everything about what they were writing about, and they were in full control. They took the words from some sort of imaginable abyss and put them down on the page with no doubt, hesitation, or nothing. They created stories, they created them perfect, shaped them even more so, and then gave them to us. And that's not really how writing happens. There is a lot of ups and downs, and it's hard. Even when you have written a lot of stuff, it's still hard. But there is this sentiment, and almost this unspoken rule, especially if you come from a writing background, where the writer, the author, should always know what's happening and should always be in control. And I realized with the years and taking creative writing courses and meeting other people and just doing a lot of writing, that the more I do this, the more I realize that that sentiment is inherently, I think, faulty. Because I don't think writing is about control. I don't think writing is about wrangling your characters like they're cats, because that doesn't work, and it doesn't happen. The story is always right. In my own experience, I have found that in the times where I was trying to force the story to be something that I didn't want to do, the writing became hard, it became not fun, the characters were not cooperating because I wasn't doing what they wanted to do, and ultimately the story came to a halt, and writing would become hard. And over the years, I've come to realize that if you're fighting your story, the story will fight back. And it will win. And it's in moments like this that I like to think on my favorite writing book, or book on writing by Stephen King. And in it, he talks about the idea of the muse, the inspiration that allows us to finish stories. And he talks about how the muse doesn't work for you. The muse doesn't show up and sprinkle miracle powder in your script and suddenly it's done. You work for the muse. You work for the writing. And if you want to find inspiration, you gotta be working. You gotta sit down, get the writing done, be at your desk, be working every time that the time shows up to work, to tell stories, and hopefully, when inspiration strikes, you will be there to put it onto the page. And I remember that it stuck with me, the idea that, like, you don't work, or the story doesn't work for you. The characters don't work for you, you work for the characters. And at the end of it all, it's always felt to me that my task is to tell the character's story as it comes to me, as they do their thing, and as they act and as they behave. And I understand that it can be very terrifying, especially as someone who's starting out, someone who comes from a background of like learning about literature in school and has felt their entire life that authors should know what's happening. Authors should know what's going to happen next. And I'm not saying you'll never. Sometimes you'll have an idea. That's why I always like to say that, like, generally, I kind of know what hopefully should maybe happen in the story. But you never know. I've written books that didn't surprise me, or books where what I thought was going to happen did happen, and it was all organic, and it didn't feel forced. And then there are stories where, one page in, everything's out the window. And that happens way more often than I would like to admit. And I know that there's a lot of focus on putting power on the outline. And if you follow this channel, you know that to me the outline is just a starting point. When the story comes to you, and when the story tells you that it wants to go in a different direction, you have to follow it. If you start fighting the story will fight back. And it will win. Because the writing will become unfun. The writing will become like pulling teeth. And you either have to play with the story, or don't play at all. So what does this mean for a writer? What does this mean for someone like you, who wants to get started, who's got ideas, and who sometimes sits down before the blank page and feel terrified? because the things you planned, the things you want to happen, are not happening. The events are not unfolding like you wanted them to. Characters are saying different things. Things that are scary because they're pushing the story into a completely different direction. What do we do? I mean, you spend all that time outlining, right? You spend all that time planning. You spent all that time thinking about what should happen, but it's not. What do we do in those situations? I think that you have to go along with the story. Writing, as I've said in the past, is the act of discovery. We discover what the story is truly about. And I know there's a lot of things that will make a lot more sense once you finish a complete first draft, because when you go into revision and you look over that first draft, you will read over and realize, wow, this story is not what I thought it was about. I thought it was going to be about this, about loss, about grieving, about coming to terms with your own mortality. And then you read it over again and it's about family. And you know what we do? We go through it again in revision and make it about what it really is all about. The first draft is just you putting the clay out there. You're going to give it shape. You don't have to worry about making it perfect. And I know it can be very, very daunting and very scary for someone who's getting started to hear that, like, right now, writing, which feels like torture, is just the beginning of the hard work. But that's writing, though. Why do we do this? Because we enjoy telling stories. Because seeing the interplay between characters is exciting. Because exploring these worlds as the first reader of the story is exciting. And I think that while there is merit in looking at this like the work that it is, and looking at this as the thing that requires the dedication that it requires, because writing is work, and it requires dedication, and it requires discipline, and that's fine. But let's also not forget that we're doing it for fun, because it is fun writing. And I don't know what's the most exciting thing for you, but for me, characters are the most fun part. When a character comes to life on the page, it's the most exciting thing for me. Because suddenly, this character who I thought I knew all about, or who I thought I kind of figured out, becomes something else. And I've said this in the past. To me, it always takes me 2/3 of the book to come to terms with the main character. It takes me 2/3 of the story to finally realize who they are, and to learn their voice. That's why, and I'll tell you that right now, when I do revision, most of the work goes into the first 2/3 of the story, where I'm figuring out what the main character is supposed to sound like, and feel like, and act like. The last act of the story, like, I don't touch it as much as I do the first 2/3 of the story, because by then the characters are all in place. I've come to terms with who they are. I've stopped fighting them, and I've just gone with the flow. For years I've been saying that don't treat writing like you are the director, sitting on the director's chair, calling cut and action. You're the cameraman. You're following those characters. It is not your job to judge, to tell them what to do. You're just the guy, gal, or a non-binary person like myself with the camera. You're showing the reader what's happening. You're telling them what people are saying. And, most importantly, you're the very first person to experience it. Okay? If life is scary, if writing is scary, if you don't know what to do, and it is terrifying to go into the unknown where characters can do whatever they want, I want to inspire you, not to just plunge into the unknown right now, but little by little, let the characters do what they must do. Trust in your story. Trust that it will go somewhere. And that somewhere, as terrifying as it may be, it will be fun. Okay? As always, don't fight the story, because if you do, it will fight back, and it will win. Okay? Okay. I hope this little inspirational bit was helpful, and I hope that if anything, I gave you another point of view. Thank you for tagging along. It's great to see this new influx of followers, and I hope that I can give you guys the advice that you're looking for. Keep at it, keep working on it, and focus on having fun. Okay? Okay, and now, I want to let you know a couple of things. Just 3 really quick things. I take questions from the comments down below. I take ideas for topics from down there for these videos and for my vlogs, so if you have a question, let me know. Also, I have a Twitter account where I post writing jokes, writing inspiration, and I let you know about whatever I'm up to. It's just the easiest way to get in contact with me. Also, I have a Patreon account, the #1 place to support me and what I do. You can pledge $1 $1 a month and get to watch these videos, my weekly writing advice videos, a week in advance. And I think that's pretty cool. And if you pledge a little more, you can get access to my physical writing advice zine, get signed copies of my books, get early access to my ebooks when they come out, and of course get a shout out like the following people. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for helping me do what I do and bringing you more of what I do in my videos. Thank you so much. And now, as we're in the formal outro, I want to let you know that there should be a button to subscribe on the screen, a big button to check out my writing advice playlist with over 300 writing advice videos. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. There should also be a link to my Patreon, and last but by no means least, a button to go to my other channel with my best friend Kitty, where we play games, and we are very, 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 very silly people. And again, thank you for tagging along, thank you for watching. Remember, writing is the act of discovery, so set sail upon those unknown waters and see where they take you.